Before we dive headfirst into this insane mess, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. You're going to need it, because without our warning, who knows, maybe tomorrow, your planet might just evaporate. We are at the headquarters of the Galactic Insurance Group, a colossal architectural monolith floating in the cold neutral zone. This is the mecca of bureaucracy, where the universe's coldest calculating minds ensure your assets are safe from the cosmos's random tantrums. Meet Viora, a veteran auditor. She is no pushover. Throughout her century-long career, Viora has handled the most horrific claims. Stars suddenly collapsing, asteroid belts going rogue, and even a legendary divorce lawsuit between a sentient moon and its host planet. She is numb, steely, and nothing can surprise her. Or at least she thought so, until this morning. On her polished desk lay a file, thin but weighing a ton. Claim SWAG 428. Subject: Earth. Category: routine planetary maintenance. Viora opened the file with the indifference of one who has seen it all. But exactly 8 seconds later, that professional mask crumbled. She hurriedly yanked open the bottom drawer, pulling out the strongest bottle of whiskey, the one labeled only for apocalypse-level discoveries. This file wasn't a disaster. It was a cosmic joke. According to the data, that little blue rock had submitted 427 claims for global extinction events in just 1 billion years. The craziest part? Earth was listed as both the insured party and the cause of damage. Viora rubbed her eyes, reading it again, hoping her language processor was glitching. But no. The truth was stark on the paper. Earth had slaughtered 99% of living things on its surface, repeatedly, hundreds of times, and then calmly filed for insurance money to rebuild and do it all over again. The latest request? Divine extinction event. The name alone reeked of doom, and worse, it was marked as ongoing. Viora poured a full glass, hands trembling, ignoring the fact that the station's sun had only just peeked over the horizon. The conference room was thick with tension when the doors slid open. The representative of the human species walked in. Viora had steeled herself to meet a tormented creature, or perhaps a raving lunatic. Instead, in walked Derek. The man walked with the swagger of someone who didn't give a damn about the universe, holding a multi-layered food block wrapped in paper. Earthlings call it a sandwich. He chewed noisily as he walked, crumbs scattering everywhere, completely unbothered by the fact that he was about to answer for millions of years of planetary genocide. Viora activated the holographic screen, zooming in on Earth's geological history. "Look at this," her voice trembled, trying to maintain dignity. The timeline didn't look like a chart of civilizational progress. It looked like the EKG of a butcher having a seizure. Crimson. Deadly. Derek glanced at the blood-soaked chart, swallowed a mouthful of sandwich, gave a polite nod, and slumped into the chair. Viora took a deep breath, asking the question she thought was most logical. How? Exactly how in the hell does a planet undergo 427 apocalypses and still have residents alive to file for money? You should have all died 400 times ago. Derek gulped down some water, wiped his greasy hands on a napkin, and shrugged. "Well," he began, his voice as light as if discussing the weather, "Earth has what we might call a slightly dynamic geological personality. Viora's secondary nervous system, which usually only activated in the face of imminent death, began screaming warnings. 'Dynamic?' she hissed. 'Explain your definition of normal and dynamic right now.' Derek clicked his tongue, opened a battered notebook, and started listing Earth's greatest hits as if reading a menu. Let's see. Global volcanic eruptions. Just another Tuesday. Climate changing faster than a bitter X. Naturally. Tectonic plates playing bumper cars. Absolutely. And occasionally, the universe sucker punches us with a meteor without warning. It's all standard operating procedure. He pointed to the first item. The Ordovician event. The planet decided to freeze everything and kill off most marine life for fun. The Devonian event. Ocean oxygen dropped to negative levels, choking the entire planet. Viora looked at that puny human, then back at the file. She suddenly realized a horrifying truth. These people were not victims. Earth was not a protected planet. Earth was a crucible, a purgatory. And humans were monsters that had walked out of those flames with a smile on their lips and a sandwich in their hands. Derek paused at the page on the Permian era. His eyes glinted with something, pride or morbid admiration. Ah, the Permian, Derek clicked his tongue. This is when Earth got truly serious. A 96% fatality rate, a perfect combo of destruction, continuous volcanic eruptions, oceans turning to acid, and temperatures rising enough to cook everything. Simply put, the planet turned itself into a giant microwave. Viora slammed her hand on the table, cutting off his enthusiastic reminiscence. That is an act of war. A cosmic-level disaster, an invasion. No sentient planet slaughters 96% of its residents just because it felt an itch. Derek looked at her with genuine confusion, as if Viora had just asked why water is wet. You misunderstand. Earth didn't mean to kill anyone. It doesn't hate us. It's just a planet that enjoys a vigorous workout. Geological systems are active, that's all. Those who adapt live, those who don't become fossils. The survivors usually live quite like kings until the next event hits. The auditor's question popped out reflexively, though she knew she would regret hearing the answer. The next event. Oh, there's always a next one. Derek beamed, eyes lighting up like a child telling ghost stories. Right now, we're sitting on something called the Yellowstone supervolcano. Statistically, it's long overdue for an eruption. When it goes boom, and note that I said when, not if, it will coat a significant portion of the continent in ash and gift humanity an eternal winter. But that's probably a ways off, hopefully. Veora's second heart skipped a beat, a sensation her species only experienced during moments of existential terror. Why? Her voice cracked. Why do you still live on a ticking time bomb with such a volatile geological temperament? Why haven't you evacuated? Derek shrugged, nonchalantly shoving the last piece of sandwich into his mouth. Go where? Earth is home. The conversation spiraled downward from there. Viora, possessing the logical mindset of a civilized being, insisted this was an anomaly. Derek, with the stubbornness typical of an Earth creature, suggested, field trip. Viora agreed, clinging to the fragile hope that seeing it in person would clear up the misunderstanding. She was wrong, dead wrong. They arrived at the Natural History Museum, located right in the middle of a bustling metropolis. This building wasn't a repository of knowledge. It was a shrine honoring the planet's long history of creative violence. Derek led Viora through the exhibits with the demeanor of a tour guide showing off vacation photos. Rather than presenting a chronicle of the apocalypse, the Permian era exhibit appeared. It was a vivid tableau of hell. Roaring rivers of lava, a sky blackened by ash blotting out the sun, and an ocean turned into a suffocating grave as oxygen evaporated. The placard descriptions described this destruction with a cheerful, chillingly detached tone, as if discussing a forecast of scattered showers rather than the near-total erasure of complex life. Viora stood frozen before a screen displaying a glowing red number. Extinction rate, 96%. Was it a weapon? She whispered, her voice trembling. An attack from a galactic empire? A planet-killer device? Derek laughed. The sound echoed among the fossilized skeletons. Weapons? Nah, just Earth doing its thing. He pointed to a simulation model. This is the Siberian Traps event. Imagine the ground cracking open and Earth deciding to turn a massive territory into a fountain, but spraying lava. It just kept spraying like that for thousands of years, long enough to poison the atmosphere, kill the oceans, and turn the planet into a gas chamber. Viora's professional composure collapsed completely. Why? She screamed in desperation. Why would a planet do that to itself? Derek smiled, the forgiving smile of someone used to living with the Reaper. Like I said, the planet didn't mean to. It just sneezed. It's just that the sneeze was a bit hot. The thing is, Derek explained, waving his hand in front of a geological cross-section model. Earth's core is hot, the pressure is immense, and sometimes it needs to vent. The fact that surface life gets cooked or buried is just an unintended side effect. It's not really part of Mother Nature's equation. They stepped into the Ice Age exhibit. Viora knew about this phase. It was when Earth, having grown bored of its campfire phase, decided to switch on permanent freezer mode. It froze a massive portion of its surface, killing off any weak creature that refused to grow fur or didn't know how to shiver to generate heat. And this didn't just happen once, it was a recurring hobby. But what made Viora shudder wasn't the ice and snow, but the prehistoric human animatronic robots grinning broadly, wearing ragged fur coats, looking utterly optimistic. Look at that, Derek pointed to the fake cavemen. My ancestors. We actually evolved right inside that giant refrigerator. Constant environmental pressure delivered an ultimatum. Innovate or die. And, Viora asked. Well, most died, Derek smirked. But the survivors, they became master problem solvers. Too cold. Skin another animal and wear it. Too hungry. Craft spears and hunt mammoths. We didn't just survive, we thrived because of adversity. Viora massaged her temples. Have you people never thought about evacuating when this planet throws a tantrum? Derek looked at her as if she had just asked why fish don't climb trees. Evacuate to where? This is home. Besides, the Ice Age is over. Everything's fine. Don't worry so much. They entered the dinosaur hall. Viora stood cowering beneath the gigantic skeleton of a creature that once ruled this planet. Now, it was just a pile of lifeless calcium, the victim of a cosmic bullet. An asteroid slammed into Earth with the force of billions of atomic bombs, triggering a destruction combo package. Earthquakes, tsunamis, firestorms, and a nuclear winter. So, Viora swallowed hard. Surely after this incident, humanity learned a lesson and built a sophisticated planetary defense system, right? Derek scratched his head, looking slightly embarrassed. Ah, well, we do have a few telescopes for looking around, but, funding is tight. Besides, the probability of a major impact during a human lifetime is very low. The populace isn't really worried about it. Having said that, he casually turned into the gift shop and bought a green stuffed T-Rex toy. He held the plush stuffed animal representing mass extinction in his hand and gave it a gentle squeeze. Squeak, squeak. Right at that moment, the pigment cells on Viora's face turned void purple. a color indicating extreme existential dread. In her mind, the insurance claim was already drafted, but Earth wasn't done with her yet. Rumble, rumble. The floor shook violently. Display cases rattled, clattering against each other. An earthquake. Veora shrieked, diving for cover under a display table. But when she looked up, she witnessed an absurd spectacle. The surrounding tourists simply widened their stance slightly to maintain balance. They continued sipping their coffee, perusing the dry bones, as if the ground betraying them was just another Tuesday lunch. Only about a 5.0 on the Richter scale, Derek said, clutching his plush dinosaur, completely unflinching. This building is designed to dance with the quake. Everything is fine. Veora looked at the placid crowd and realized the truth. This species is insane, and so is their planet. On the way back to the spaceport, Veora made a bold decision. This went beyond financial auditing. This was a matter for psychiatric medicine. She sent an urgent request to the Galactic Council, requesting a psychiatric evaluation for planet Earth. If the Council wanted to continue insuring this damn rock, they needed to determine if Earth was actually maliciously sentient, or simply a giant, irresponsible, hyperactive toddler. The following week, Dr. Venzik touched down. Venzik was a Zari, a species renowned for supernatural empathy. She was a legend in conflict resolution, having mediated wars between hive minds, conducted psychotherapy for a serial killer AI, and even successfully treated depression for an abandoned black hole. With that resume, an unruly planet was just a minor issue. The therapy session was set up at a geological monitoring station deep underground. Seismic sensors, atmospheric gauges, and magnetic field detectors were connected to the most advanced planetary language translator available. And of course, Derek, who had now reluctantly become the Pope, the unofficial spokesperson of Earth, was also present for support. Dr. Venzik took a deep breath, beginning the therapy session with a soft, empathetic voice amplified through speakers directed deep into the underground. Hello, Earth. We are here to listen. Tell me, what is your relationship like with the little children living on your back? The seismograph needle began to dance wildly. Earth was preparing to answer. A long silence stretched, heavy as the pressure at the bottom of the ocean. Sensors hissed, processing massive magnetic vibrations. Finally, through Derek, Earth spoke, and its answer contained a genuine confusion that was chilling. Relationship? Derek's voice was flat, but carried the resonance of grinding boulders. I do not understand. Things are born on my skin. Some die, some live. Those that remain seem to enjoy it, as they multiply endlessly. I am merely the stage, not the actor. Dr. Venzik frowned, trying to convey a moral concept to a giant rock. But do you understand that your stage is killing the audience? Your geological activity is slaughtering your own residents. Another silence. Surface conditions change, Earth replied, its tone as self-evident as Newton's first law. Temperatures fluctuate, crusts fracture, magma erupts. That is how I breathe. You want me to cease tectonic activity? Stop blood circulation, stop living. That is geologically illogical. Venzik switched tactics. She appealed to conscience. Do you feel responsible for the mass extinctions you caused? Sensor lights blinked rapidly, indicating extreme confusion. Responsibility? For what? Evolution requires pressure. Without threat, there is no growth. The weak are culled, making room for the strong. That is how biology operates. I create the arena. They decide whether to live or die. Where is the problem? Derek suddenly interjected, sounding like someone bragging about a war scar. Actually, we humans like building cities right on fault lines and volcanic slopes. Why? Venzik gasped. Good soil, Derek shrugged. Volcanic ash makes the land incredibly fertile. You can grow anything. And coastal areas with tsunamis, great seafood, easy trade access, high risk, high reward. We just build earthquake-proof houses. No big deal. The therapist looked at Derek, then down at the vibrating floor. She turned back to Earth. Do you realize you are creating a death trap? Earth's answer, filtered through tons of machinery in Derek's mouth, revealed a cold truth. It had absolutely no concept of danger. Heat and pressure accumulate inside. It needs an outlet. Continental plates float on the mantle. Climate reacts to orbit. That is basic physics. The fact that surface life feels inconvenienced when I stretch, that is their problem, not mine. Dr. Venzik let her hands drop. She understood. Earth wasn't evil. It wasn't a tyrant. It was worse. It was a massive physical machine, a chaotic system completely indifferent to the survival of the ants crawling on its back. She asked one final question, her voice trembling. Earth, are you aware that the boil named Yellowstone is about to burst? Yes, the sensors answered immediately. Magma chamber pressure is peaking. The overlying rock is about to fracture. It will erupt. Just a routine safety valve release protocol. Derek cut in, as calm as if checking his watch. We're monitoring it. We have evacuation plans, but it's probably a ways off. A ways off is how long? Venzik asked, hoping for a safe number. Could be a few thousand years, Derek scratched his chin. Or could be tomorrow. Geological time, who knows? It's not exact. Dr. Venzik slammed the data book shut. She turned to Viora, her face pale. Listen, Earth doesn't need therapy. It is completely normal. It is functioning exactly as a dynamic geological planet should. She pointed a trembling finger at Derek. The problem isn't the planet. The problem is them. The real question is, why do humans choose to cling to a hostile planet where every biological law screams at them to get the hell out to preserve their lives? So, what is the doctor's recommendation? Viora asked in despair. Venzik took off her glasses, rubbing her tired eyes. 1. Evacuate all of humanity to some boring dead rock so they can be safe. 2. Accept the fact that humans are a bunch of lunatics suffering from collective Stockholm syndrome with their abuser. With that, Venzik tendered her resignation on the spot, citing excessive stress due to exposure to extreme absurdity. She booked the earliest flight out of the solar system and spent the entire voyage downing alcohol and rambling about the meaninglessness of geological timescales. Viora was left alone, her headache having evolved into a chronic migraine. She looked at the file. Earth, a serial killer that had exterminated 99% of surface life and was reloading for the next round. And humans, they not only accepted living with a gun to their temple, but they also didn't give a damn. The insurance claim file sat there radiating a malevolent aura that split Viora's skull. She had no protocol to handle the category. Routine maintenance for planetary scale extinction events. That wasn't insurance. That was aiding and abetting suicide. Viora poured a full glass, downed it, and decided to kick this responsibility football upstairs. She began drafting a report to the Galactic Council. Let those with higher pay grades decide what to do with this lunatic species. She needed sleep or to pass out. Either worked. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The magnificent Grand Hall was packed with representatives of civilized species, those born and raised on planets with climates as obedient as house pets, and geology as stable as a baby's sleep. Sitting alone in the Earth delegation section was Ambassador Jorge. He was casually scrolling through his notes, while around him, alien delegates whispered debates about humanity's future, with expressions of absolute panic. Galrex, the representative of a species possessing a gleaming bronze exoskeleton, stepped up to the podium. He looked exhausted. He had stayed up all night reading Earth's geological records, and what he saw was enough to cause nightmares for 3 generations. Council members, Galrex's voice boomed, full of humanity by his standards. My proposal is simple and humane: mandatory evacuation. We must get the humans out of there before that insane planet wipes them out for the nth, whatever time. The entire auditorium nodded in agreement. Every intelligent species in galactic history had done so. When you develop space travel technology, the first thing you do is leave your death trap cradle. That is basic survival instinct. Logic 101. Jorge raised his hand. The chairman reluctantly nodded. The human ambassador stood up. In his hand was a thermos containing a black liquid, steaming ominously. The room's sensors immediately sounded an alarm. That water contained enough caffeine to cause cardiac arrest in a galactic elephant and violated at least 12 biosafety regulations. Jorge took a massive swig of that toxic sludge, exhaling a sigh of satisfaction, making the entire council shudder. "I do not deny it," Jorge said, his voice calm. "Earth is a geological monster. Lord Galrex's evidence is accurate. However, I object to the assumption that we need to be rescued." He smiled, the smile of an apex predator. "Do you think we survived despite Earth's hostility? Wrong. We evolved because of it. Danger isn't something we run from. It is our fuel." Galrex interrupted, his voice harsh. "Enjoying planetary violence is not the behavior of a sentient being. It is a sign of collective psychosis." Jorge said nothing, simply activating the holographic screen. "This," he introduced, "is what we call entertainment." The images that appeared made the council hold their breath. Humans skydiving from sheer cliffs, diving headfirst into the abyss with only a thin piece of cloth on their backs. Divers swimming amidst a school of great white sharks, nature's killing machines, and petting them. Madmen climbing snowy mountain peaks in weather conditions that would kill an extraterrestrial in 3 minutes, just to plant a flag. People volunteering to crawl into tight, dark underground caves. And the most horrifying, images of humans eating bright red chili peppers, voluntarily ingesting a neurotoxin, capsaicin, to stimulate pain receptors, and calling it delicious. A few delegates began furtively glancing toward the emergency exits. "See," Jorge continued, "we don't just survive. We turn survival into a competitive sport. Earth shakes. We build earthquake-proof houses and study it. Volcanoes erupt. We use the ash to farm and sell tickets to tourists. Floods and storms. We build boats and surf." Galrex tried to regain control. "But that is unnecessary risk. Earth will definitely extinct you again. Why volunteer to stay in death's waiting room?" Jorge turned off the entertainment screen and switched on another map. "You ask why? Let me introduce a little land called Australia." The screen displayed a continent glowing a menacing deep red. "This land," Jorge presented enthusiastically, "is designated specifically to maximize mortality rates. The density of venomous creatures per square meter here is higher than anywhere else in the universe. Spiders as big as dinner plates crawl into your house to say good morning. Jellyfish possess venom so painful victims beg for death just to escape it. I'm not finished, Jorge continued excitedly. Octopuses kill with neurotoxins. Snakes can send you to the grave in a few steps. Birds attack pedestrians just because they look irritating. And saltwater crocodiles consider humans a convenient, crunchy snack. Zarina, the Council's intelligence officer, stood up trembling. I confirm, her voice cracked. We monitored Australia's ecosystem. Even the plants there want to kill you. Trees have poison, thorns, even species that secrete acid. It is an evolutionary nightmare, a programming error of creation. Galrex nodded triumphantly. See? Exactly. So why haven't you fled that hell on Earth? Jorge shrugged, the smile on his lips widening into a grin. Fled? Not at all. We live there. We raise kids there. On weekends we have barbecues, BBQ, drink cold beer, and sunbathe on the beach, right next to the jellyfish and sharks. The entire hall fell deathly silent. When asked why they live where everything wants to kill them, Jorge concluded, Australians will answer, 'cause the weather's nice and the beaches are great, mate. The silence shattered. The Galactic Council plunged into chaos. Delegates screamed in dozens of different languages simultaneously. Zarina held her head, feeling nauseous at this illogical thinking. Galrex slammed the table, declaring loudly in desperation, Humanity is a mentally unstable species level. I demand emergency evacuation for their own safety and the safety of the universe. Galrex, the representative of a species possessing a gleaming bronze exoskeleton, stepped up to the podium. He looked exhausted. He had stayed up all night reading Earth's geological records, and what he saw was enough to cause nightmares for 3 generations. Council members, Galrex's voice boomed, full of humanity by his standards. My proposal is simple and humane, mandatory evacuation. We must get the humans out of there before that insane planet wipes them out for the nth, whatever time. The entire auditorium nodded in agreement. Every intelligent species in galactic history had done so. When you develop space travel technology, the first thing you do is leave your death trap cradle. That is basic survival instinct. Logic 101. Jorge raised his hand. The chairman reluctantly nodded. The human ambassador stood up. In his hand was a thermos containing a black liquid, steaming ominously. The room's sensors immediately sounded an alarm. That water contained enough caffeine to cause cardiac arrest in a galactic elephant and violated at least 12 biosafety regulations. Jorge took a massive swig of that toxic sludge, exhaling a sigh of satisfaction, making the entire council shudder. I do not deny it, Jorge said, his voice calm. Earth is a geological monster. Lord Galrex's evidence is accurate. However, I object to the assumption that we need to be rescued. He smiled, the smile of an apex predator. Do you think we survived despite Earth's hostility? Wrong. We evolved because of it. Danger isn't something we run from. It is our fuel. Galrex interrupted, his voice harsh. Enjoying planetary violence is not the behavior of a sentient being. It is a sign of collective psychosis. Jorge said nothing, simply activating the holographic screen. This, he introduced, is what we call entertainment. The images that appeared made the council hold their breath. Humans skydiving from sheer cliffs, diving headfirst into the abyss with only a thin piece of cloth on their backs. Divers swimming amidst a school of great white sharks, nature's killing machines, and petting them. Madmen climbing snowy mountain peaks in weather conditions that would kill an extraterrestrial in 3 minutes, just to plant a flag. people volunteering to crawl into tight, dark underground caves. And the most horrifying, images of humans eating bright red chili peppers, voluntarily ingesting a neurotoxin, capsaicin, to stimulate pain receptors, and calling it delicious. A few delegates began furtively glancing toward the emergency exits. "See," Jorge continued, "we don't just survive. We turn survival into a competitive sport. Earth shakes. We build earthquake-proof houses and study it. Volcanoes erupt. We use the ash to farm and sell tickets to tourists. Floods and storms. We build boats and surf." Dr. Rashkal shattered the silence with a psychologically traumatic observation. Humanity has weaponized its own trauma into technological progress. Every extinction event cleared the board of competitors, creating space for the survivors. Humanity is not insane. Humanity is the logical conclusion of billions of years of planetary violence, a species that chose resilience and adaptability above all else. Zorina asked, "What happens if the Council enforces evacuation?" Jorge's expression hardened. The humor vanished. Only steel will remain. "At first we will resist politely. Then we will fight. Earth is not a prison. It is home. Any attempt to forcibly relocate us will be considered an act of war." The session ended in a stalemate. Galrex left, believing humanity needed protection from itself. Dr. Rashkal left, contemplating a species that had evolved beyond survival instinct into something more complex and terrifying. Jorge left to submit a report to the Earth government, recommending an increase in defense spending, just in case those weak aliens insisted on rescuing us. Viora watched from the observation deck, updating the insurance file. The humans would stay. Earth would continue finding ways to kill them. The claims would continue. She approved the current request and began preparing the file for the next inevitable extinction. The Human Tourism Committee, never known for restraint or sound judgment, decided to unleash their ultimate move. Ambassador Jorge stood before the Galactic Trade Commission, delivering a presentation designed to induce mass cardiac arrest in species possessing survival instincts. He announced with disturbing excitement, "Ladies and gentlemen, after witnessing our resilience, I am pleased to announce Earth is officially open for interstellar tourism." The holographic screen lit up, projecting images of a rumbling supervolcano, a Category 5 hurricane screaming across the ocean, and an Australian spider the size of a shoe. The advertising slogan appeared simple and brutal. "Earth, the supreme Deathworld. Come witness humanity survive. Challenge guaranteed. Accept all geological risks, where only the daring find their vacation." The presentation began, and it didn't resemble a business plan. It looked like a trailer for a heavy-hitting blockbuster action movie. Footage of natural disasters, the kind that forces other species to evacuate their planets, was fast-forwarded on the screen to a pounding hard rock soundtrack. Flows of molten lava were labeled interactive geological entertainment. Category 5 hurricanes ripping through the sky were advertised as natural atmospheric stimulation packages. Scenes of earthquakes shaking skyscrapers were captioned. Authentic 4D seismic experience. No massage chair needed. Jorge nonchalantly clicked through slides of tornadoes, tsunamis, and wild animals that seemed specifically designed by Mother Nature to cause maximum pain to living things. Next to an image of a great white shark clamping its jaws on bait was the text, "Close-range swimming opportunity, all-inclusive package." A delegate from the Melonian cluster, a 3-part squishy organism evolved on a moon so still that even the wind didn't bother blowing, tremblingly raised a tentacle to object. "Sir," her voice hissed with terror, "my species lives in static harmony. The concept of voluntarily diving into this atmospheric violence. To me, it looks more like a form of complicated procedural suicide than tourism. Why? Why would anyone pay money to visit a planet that is actively trying to kill them?" Jorge smiled, the smile of a galactic multi-level marketing salesman. "For the thrill, my lady. We humans have been doing this for thousands of years. We climb mountains so high the thin air stops our brains from working, just because they are there. We dive to ocean depths where pressure can crush bones. We jog around erupting volcanic craters. Now that we've reached the stars, it would be selfish not to share these wonderful experiences with our galactic friends, right?" He switched the slide to the tour packages. 1. Basic package, the Survivor. Experience mild earthquake tremors and watch tropical storms from the comfort of a secure bunker. 2. Mid-tier package, the Adrenaline Junkie. Hiking tours on volcanic rims and diving with apex predators, protective cage included, or not, optional. 3. Premium package, the Death Wish. Storm chasing in specialized vehicles and cave diving in underground systems, where floodwaters may rise unexpectedly without warning. 4. Special package, Apocalypse Preview, Extinction Preview. First-class seats to observe the Yellowstone supervolcano, complete with a complimentary handheld seismometer and emergency evacuation insurance if there's time. Delegate Morn Vex, of a species famous for assessing risk down to the precise decimal point, spoke up. "Regarding legal issues, surely the Earth government cannot authorize tourism that results in casualties. What about liability and compensation?" Jorge's grin widened to his ears. He pulled out a massive, thick file and slapped it onto the table with a heavy thud. "This is the liability waiver. It is longer than the constitutions of most species in this room combined. This document was not legal paperwork. It was an inventory of death. Item by item, it detailed scenarios in which the Earth Tourism Board would completely wash their hands of responsibility. Death by lava incineration. Trauma from falling rocks. Permanent psychological disorder caused by sighting sea monsters. Property loss due to tornado abduction. Infection by ancient bacteria. And an item vaguely but threateningly described as unforeseen geological enthusiasm. One specific clause stated clearly, soil liquefaction, ground turning into liquid mud. During earthquakes is considered a standard feature, not a technical error. Another clause warned, weather may transition from sunny to fatal within minutes. Tourists are responsible for bringing either an umbrella or a tombstone. And a third item. Note, certain regions possess native fauna that view tourists, both human and extraterrestrial, as mobile fast food. Please do not tease their lunch. Zorina, the intelligence officer, rubbed her temples. "Mr. Jorge, this does not look like tourism. This looks more like weaponized natural selection. Have you considered the diplomatic consequences of an ambassador being eaten by a crocodile or buried in volcanic ash?" Jorge nodded, his face feigning seriousness. "A valid concern. But madam, the uncertainty is the unique selling point, USP. All destinations have guides who are near-death survivors. There is no guarantee you will return in one piece. And that is exactly what makes the experience real. What is the point of a safe trip? The Galactic Council voted. Result, unanimous rejection. Some delegates even filed formal complaints, accusing Jorge's presentation of constituting mental terrorism and psychological warfare. Jorge thanked the council gathered his documents, and walked out of the conference room with the nonchalance of a man who knew he held all the cards. Just as he stepped into the corridor, his comms device vibrated violently. A priority message from Earth. Turns out, the presentation video had leaked onto the Galactic Information Net. Whether accidentally or intentionally, only Jorge knew. And the reaction of the galactic public, explosive. The Earth Tourism Board was drowning in applications. Millions of aliens bored to death with safe, tedious lives on perfect planets suddenly found the idea of surviving a death world strangely appealing. Demand exceeded supply 100-fold. And ironically, the first official tour group was the Pixnari. The Pixnari were a species evolved on a hyperstable planet. No tectonic plates, solid crust. An annual temperature fluctuation of only 0.5 degrees and no weather. In their language, there weren't even words for storm, earthquake, or the concept of sudden death from above. They were the most innocent children of the universe, and they were about to step into death's funhouse. Customs procedures took longer than expected, mainly due to translation issues. How do you explain the concept of a lightning strike to a species that has never seen the sky get angry? How do you explain tsunami to those who think water is only for drinking? But from an entertainment perspective, for Earthlings, these were definitely the worst candidates, and therefore would yield the highest profits. At the customs gate, the space station translator gave up. He skipped translating word for word and simply summarized the entire lengthy document into one sentence. Setting foot on this planet may result in death in ways your imaginations are not yet sophisticated enough to conceive. The Pixnari leader, a respected scholar named Pixnex, tremblingly asked, "This must be marketing exaggeration, right?" The customs officer looked at him with pity. "No, sir, that was the sugar-coated summary, disregarding the warnings. Scientific curiosity, the kind that usually leads to a Nobel Prize or a stupid death, triumphed over survival instinct." Pixnex signed the liability waiver. His entire team signed as well. They didn't realize they had just signed a death warrant for their sanity. Tamura was assigned as their guide. She was the perfect choice. Born in the Pacific Ring of Fire, raised amidst earthquakes and wildfires. To her, disaster was just a synonym for Tuesday. She greeted the group at the landing pad with a beaming smile and an emergency first aid kit strapped to her hip. The tour began with an introductory lesson. The ground is not your friend. Pixnex nearly fainted upon hearing this. On his homeworld, the ground was the only constant in the universe. The concept of the ground betraying you, spontaneously liquefying, cracking open, and swallowing everything, was absolute blasphemy. Tamura explained with a tone as gentle as if telling a fairy tale. "Don't worry. We build houses with flexible foundations. When the earth shakes, the house dances along. The early warning system gives us about a few seconds to a minute before everything collapses. Enough time to run outside or pray. Quite exciting, isn't it?" Pixnex typed a note into his tablet. Earthlings define exciting as imminent death. The weather forecast reported a moderate thunderstorm. To Earthlings, moderate meant wet and slightly noisy. To the Pixnari, moderate meant the apocalypse. As the black clouds gathered, the tour group's measuring instruments began screaming like banshees. Pressure dropped suddenly. Electric potential accumulated. Wind speeds reached emergency level 10 by their homeworld standards. And then, the storm hit. Boom! A lightning bolt tore through the sky, striking so close that the thunder exploded right next to their ears, the shockwave rattling their very rib cages. Rain poured down like a waterfall, erasing everything from vision. The wind howled, shaking the reinforced observation station like a toy. The Pixnari group huddled in a corner, emitting ultrasonic distress signals. "This is war," Pixnex screamed. "This planet is declaring war on its own atmosphere. We are in the middle of a battlefield." Tamura calmly looked at her tablet, taking a sip of hot tea. "Oh no, it's just a spring shower. It'll stop in about an hour. Want a cookie?" She further explained that many Earthlings actually enjoy watching storms to chill. Pixnex immediately drafted an urgent diplomatic note accusing Earth of extreme atmospheric violence and demanding immediate evacuation. The request was denied on the grounds that the weather is too lovely, insufficient conditions for an emergency. After the storm passed, Tamura handed everyone a cotton towel and announced the good news. Next event, a small earthquake, expected to occur in the next few days at a coastal city. Something to really look forward to. Pixnex stuttered. "Humans actually pay to live where the ground attacks them?" "Of course," Tamura beamed. "Real estate there is very expensive. Beautiful ocean views, fertile soil. A little shaking is a small price to pay." And just as predicted, a rare win for the meteorology department, the earthquake struck while they were walking down the street. It lasted only 20 seconds, of moderate intensity, strong enough to be felt distinctly, but not strong enough to crack the walls of modern buildings. But for Pixnex, it was 20 seconds of existential terror. Reality collapsed, solid matter liquefied, his faith in the universe shattered beneath his feet. Tamura simply leaned her back against the door frame, waiting like someone waiting for a red light. Around her, pedestrians paused for a moment, adjusted their balance, and then continued walking. A few teenagers pulled out their phones to check the Quake app, joking, "Hey, 4.5 Richter. I didn't even spill my coffee." When the ground stopped shaking, Pixnex stood in the middle of the street, emitting a long, high-pitched whine, the sound of a life philosophy being utterly demolished. Tamura patted him on the shoulder. "Is everyone okay? The building integrity reports are all green. No worries. Let's go to the coast and watch the tsunami. Oops, watch the sea." "No," Pixnex screamed. "No sea, no waves, no more Earth. Go home, immediately." The entire delegation unanimously demanded immediate deportation from this insane planet. The trip ended early. Earth had proven its point brilliantly. It was a wicked stepmother, and its children were brave lunatics. Immediately upon boarding the shuttle, Pixnex wrote a 500-page report to the Galactic Tourism Council. The report described Earth as hell on Earth, a geological nightmare, and recommended classifying the planet as a Class S danger zone, requiring special permits and psychological screening before visiting. The report was made public. Billions of beings across the galaxy read it. They read about a place where the ground dances, the sky screams, and locals consider imminent death weekend entertainment. And the result? Tourism applications to Earth skyrocketed by 5,000%. Turns out, in a universe too safe and boring, everyone wants to taste fear just once, and Earth, with its cruel smirk, was ready to serve them all. After the Pixnari PR disaster, which was a roaring sales success, Earth suddenly became the galaxy's #1 tourism hotspot. Species from harsh planets wanted to come measure up their homeworld's brutality against Earth. species from gentle greenhouse worlds wanted to pay to taste the metallic tang of blood and the salty taste of sweat. Scientists flocked like fanatics, desperate to solve the mystery. How does a genocidal planet produce a species so intelligent and reckless to the point of stupidity? Tamura received the Employee of the Year award and a bonus fat enough to buy a small island, high tsunami risk, but great view. Her next group was the Kralok Warriors, a proud race, always boasting of their bravery in battle. Tamura smirked while reviewing the client files. Brave, huh? All right then. She immediately adjusted the tour itinerary. Day 1, climb an active volcano, no thermal protection gear. Day 2, overnight camping in lion and hyena territory, no electric fences. Day 3, racing against great white sharks. If they wanted the authentic Earth experience, she would serve it on a silver platter. Jorge sat in his office, looking with satisfaction at the vertical revenue chart. Earth had done the unthinkable, monetized its own lethality. While other planets had to build artificial theme parks, simulating fake storms and earthquakes to collect loose change, Earth sold the real deal at extortionate prices. Viora, the poor auditor, now had to double as the director of tourist compensation claims. The files on her desk were no longer about extinction events, but tragicomic accidents. Just this morning, a mighty Kralok warrior was rushed to the emergency room with a massive medical bill. The reason? He underestimated a chubby-looking herbivore called a hippo. Lesson learned: never poke a hippo, whether you have a laser gun or not. The galaxy was shocked to realize Earth isn't just dangerous, Earth is peak entertainment. Horror and allure blended into an addictive drug that defied every law of cosmic economics. But deep beneath the Earth's crust, the real monster still slumbered, completely indifferent to those making money on its back. While Earth was busy counting money, a massive shadow covered the sky. Commander Forak's rescue fleet had arrived. Forak was a living legend. He had evacuated hundreds of planets, saving billions of lives from supernovas, black holes, and plagues. To him, this mission was simple: save humanity from the death trap named Earth. He had prepared everything: thousands of massive transport ships, resettlement funds from the Galactic Council, and a beautiful new planet named Paradise. A place with no earthquakes, no storms, and definitely no hippos. But when Forak contacted Earth, expecting tears of gratitude, he received a slap in the face. Ambassador Jorge appeared on the screen, clutching a cup of coffee, a known neurotoxin, smiling politely. We thank the Forak fleet for your concern, but please vacate our orbit. Evacuation is unnecessary and unwelcome. Forak was stunned. He opened a direct channel, his voice trembling at the absurdity of it all. Mr. Ambassador, do you understand what you are saying? The Yellowstone supervolcano is waking up. When it blows, and it will blow, millions will die. Why are you rejecting life? Jorge replied. And behind him, on the screen, was a live feed of thousands of humans taking to the streets in protest. Not protesting to be saved, but protesting against being forced to leave. Banners filled the streets. Earth is home. Don't save me. I'm busy beeping. And Yellowstone needs love too. Commander Forak, Jorge's voice hardened. My ancestors survived the Ice Age with stone and fire. We weathered nuclear winter through sheer will. Now, running away just because a volcano might erupt. That is cowardice. But it is scientific fact, Forak screamed. Data does not lie. We know. Jorge nodded. The data is very concerning. That is why we have monitoring systems. If it blows, we will deal with it. But until then, we still have jobs to do, families to feed, football games to watch. We will not abandon everything just because you aliens feel vicariously anxious. The debate reached a stalemate. The Galactic Council was deeply divided. The Galrex faction demanded forced relocation for the sake of the children. The Dr. Reskel faction objected, respecting the self-determination of madmen. And the Zarina intelligence faction issued a chilling warning. If we try to forcibly evacuate humanity, they will not go quietly onto the ships. They will shoot back. And trust me, this species is very good at turning everything into a weapon. While politicians argued in space, deep beneath Yellowstone, Earth began to speak, not through Derek's translation, but in the language of destruction. Dr. Venzig, still researching planetary psychology, noticed anomalies. Magma was moving at depths that should have been silent. Viola, the geologist at the Yellowstone Observatory, looked at her screens and felt the blood freeze in her veins. Magma chamber pressure skyrocketed, far exceeding every predictive model. The ground began to bulge like a malignant tumor. Small earthquakes occurred in rapid succession, beating like war drums. This was not normal background activity. These were precursors. Viola tremblingly picked up the phone to call Derek, the world's unluckiest man, holding the title of Global Disaster Hotline. Derek, her voice cracked, tell everyone. This isn't a drill. It's really coming. Derek scanned through Viola's analysis reports. He nodded. There was no panic in his eyes, only the intense focus of a soldier defusing a bomb. Immediate attention required, he agreed. But scientific attention, not the panic of headless chickens. We need more data. Is this doomsday? Or is Earth just feeling a bit gassy? No one knows yet. But in orbit, Commander Forak didn't think so. He looked at the glaring red numbers on his screen and issued his verdict. Evacuation is mandatory, right now. Forak sent an ultimatum down to Earth's governments. Cooperate immediately with the rescue fleet or die. Jorge responded, and this time he dropped the diplomatic niceties. Disappointment shifted into cold fury. Humanity does not need rescue. We are not children needing a nanny. Your fleet is jamming our sensors. Withdraw immediately and let Earth scientists work. If evacuation is needed, we will do it ourselves. We know the way to the door. Thank you. In the following days, Earth began to truly growl. Earthquake frequencies skyrocketed. Geysers that were once gentle now shot boiling water into the sky like artillery cannons. Tourist zones around volcanic craters were forced to close, though the Kralok tourists still begged to stay and watch at all costs. At the observatory, Viola worked around the clock. She was like a conductor trying to decode the chaotic symphony of hundreds of sensors, trying to answer the million-dollar question. Is this the prelude to a requiem, or just an improvised crescendo? Amidst the fire and fury, Dr. Rashkel landed on Earth. Defying the embargo and diplomatic tensions, this alien scientist wanted to see with his own eyes. How do humans behave when staring straight into the eyes of death? He expected chaos, looting, screaming. But what he saw caused his alien brain to crash. There was anxiety, sure, but no panic. Emergency services were quietly prepping evacuation routes and stockpiling food. Scientists were gathering data and refining simulation models. The government was discussing plans A, B, and C. But life went on. People went to work. Children went to school. Couples still argued about what to eat for dinner. The morning news covered the risk of a volcanic eruption right after the sports segment and the traffic forecast. Rashkal found Viola at the observatory. She looked ravaged, dark circles rimming her eyes, but her gaze was as sharp as a razor. "Are you scared?" Rashkal asked. Viola didn't lift her head from the seismic screen. "Of course I'm scared. Theoretically, Yellowstone has been a monster waiting to swallow me my entire career." She paused for a moment, looking at the escalating pressure chart. But what the hell does fear solve? Fear clouds reason. Understanding is useful. Data is a weapon. Preparation is a shield. I don't have time to be scared. "What if evacuation is needed?" Rashkal asked next. "Then we evacuate," Viola shrugged. "The plan is already in place. Red zone residents evacuate first. Global ash filtration protocols activate. We've been preparing for this scenario for decades. We'll go into bunkers, grow mushrooms, and wait for the volcanic winter to pass." Rashkal shuddered. This species, they didn't intend to avoid the disaster. They intended to endure it. They intended to go toe-to-toe with this planet. "Why don't you want to leave?" Rashkal blurted out, his voice full of bewilderment. "Why not go to the paradise Forak prepared?" Viola turned, looking at him with genuine confusion, as if he had just asked why she wouldn't chop off her own arm. "Leave Earth? Go where? My work is here. My family is here. My ancestors' graves are here." She thumped her fist on her chest. Everything that makes a human was forged by this planet. Running away to some safe glass cage, that's not salvation. That is the erasure of identity. We are children of Earth. Leaving this place, we wouldn't be us anymore. We would become weak. The station door burst open. Derek walked in, his face tense. "Bad news from the council," he announced. "Forak is losing patience. He's threatening forced intervention if we don't cooperate. Delegate Goldrix is proposing to declare humanity a mentally deficient species to strip us of our self-determination. And Dr. Venzik, she's trying to protect us. She says forcibly relocating a sentient species is an ethical violation. But the situation is extremely tense." Derek looked at Viola, his eyes urgent. "I'm buying time at the negotiating table, but I need a scientific number. Viola, tell me, is it going to blow?" Viola turned back to the screen. Magma was churning like a waking dragon. Pressure was breaking every safety limit. Surface rock was deforming. Every sign screamed, yes. But when? An hour from now? Or 100 years from now? "It's coming," Viola whispered. "But geological systems don't care about our schedule. It could blow right now, or it could go back to sleep for a few more generations. Mother Nature is a cranky old witch, Derek. She doesn't like following plans." Derek nodded, clenching his fist. "All right, then we show our hand to the whole universe." The situation escalated to the breaking point. Commander Forak, with the patience of a saint, or the arrogance of someone who had never been slapped in the face by Earth, declared, "We will save you, whether you want it or not." The Forak fleet began moving into forced evacuation positions. The Galactic Council nodded in approval. They believed they were doing the right thing, protecting a naive species from an irrational attachment to that damn planet. In response to that kindness, Jorge did something only a human would dare. He activated the orbital defense system. In reality, this system was only used to shoot small meteors or clear space debris. It wasn't designed for interstellar war, but in human hands, the best in the universe at turning labor tools into lethal weapons, it became a genuine threat. Jorge sent a final message, cold and steely. "Forak fleet, listen closely. We appreciate your concern, but we will handle our own domestic troubles. any attempt to touch a human citizen against their will be considered an act of war. We will shoot, and we do not fire warning shots. Forak froze. He was trying to save a dog from a burning building, and that dog just pulled a gun and pointed it at his head. This situation went far beyond every military manual and his common logic. Diplomatic channels collapsed and guns were about to speak. Dr. Venzig, the planetary psychologist, suddenly realized something. The final piece of the puzzle. She asked herself, why? Why does this toxic couple, Earth and humanity, stick together despite all logic? She asked Viola for the entire geological history data. This time, Venzig didn't look at individual disasters. She looked at the big picture. She analyzed the rhythm of mass extinctions over billions of years, and the results chilled her to the bone. Major extinction events were not random. They always occurred when biodiversity reached a critical threshold, when there were too many species competing for limited resources, when the ecosystem became stagnant and weak. At that moment, Earth would hit the reset button. Earth wasn't killing out of malice. Earth was gardening. It pruned the weak branches. It cleared the playground. It wiped out the incompetent to make room for the stronger, smarter, and tougher ones to rise. Viola, Venzig said, her voice trembling with excitement. Earth is not a serial killer. It is an ecosystem management machine. Viola frowned. You sound like you're saying those rocks are conscious. Rocks don't think. Not thinking in that way, Venzig explained. It's a feedback loop. Climate reacts to life. Life reacts to climate. Over billions of years, this system self-regulates to prevent total collapse. Extinction isn't a system error. It is a feature. Derek, standing nearby, asked the most important question. So the upcoming Yellowstone event means Earth is trying to fix something? Venzig nodded. Maybe. On a human timescale, it is a catastrophe. But on a planetary timescale, it's just a breath to maintain long-term life. And most importantly, humans have never run away. You always stay, adapt, and become stronger after every time Earth sneezes. Venzig sent this analysis report to the Council and Forak. It was a controversial hypothesis, but it changed everything. Earth was not hostile. Earth was a forge, and humanity was the sword tempered in that fire. Separating humans from Earth wasn't saving them. It was turning them into a useless piece of rusty iron. Forak read the report. His conviction crumbled. He realized his arrogance. He had tried to play the savior for a species that actually didn't need saving. They had survived billions of years of hell. They were the ultimate warriors of survival. Forak opened a direct channel to Jorge. His voice lowered, full of respect. The fleet will withdraw. If humanity wants to stare straight into the eyes of disaster and laugh in its face, that is your right. I apologize for my arrogance. Good luck, you crazy friends. Jorge nodded, accepting the apology. On the screen, the massive rescue fleet turned around, leaving Earth alone with its fate. Beneath their feet, Yellowstone still growled. Viola turned back to her data screens. The volcano could erupt tomorrow, or in 1,000 years, or never. That uncertainty would drive any other species mad. But for humans, it was as familiar as breathing. It was the white noise that lulled them to sleep every night. Humans still went to work, still fell in love, still argued, and still sold tour tickets to the curious who wanted to see what death looked like. It was the uncertainty that shaped them. It was the fire that forged them. And deep within the planet's crust, Glowing magma still churned according to cold laws of physics, completely indifferent to the dramas playing out on the surface. It knew no love, it knew no hate, but it had accidentally created a species stubborn enough, crazy enough, and strong enough to love it. Earth remained Earth, magnificent, terrifying, and home. Thank you for following this entire disaster dossier. Hit subscribe now so you don't miss the next story, where we might tell you how humans use volcanic rocks to grill sausages to sell to aliens